Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are opening the closet, putting on the iconic red suspenders, and strapping in to explore a career so expansive it really redefined what a modern broadcaster could achieve. We are talking about the late, the inimitable Larry King. To call him prolific feels like, well, an understatement.
He was.
He's voluminous. When you actually tally up his work, we're talking about a man who anchored over 6,000 episodes of Larry King live on CNN alone.
Just on CNN, yeah.
And historians estimate he conducted somewhere between, 50,000 and 60,000 interviews across radio and television in his lifetime.
It's an almost unbelievable number.
Think about that sheer scale. I mean, he spoke in depth to more distinct individuals than populate many small cities in the U.S.
It really is a phenomenal achievement, not just in volume, but, consistency, spanning from 1957 all the way through his passing in 2021.
Yeah.
And King wasn't just a survivor in media. He was a constant adapter. He managed to remain not just relevant, but actually central across every major medium that emerged during those decades. From late night, coast-to-coast AM radio to the golden age of cable news, and then eventually into the fractured digital world, internet television, even infomercials. He was everywhere.
He really was.
And he occupied this genuinely unique space as a public figure. He acted as a bridge, perhaps the most sort of democratic one we've ever seen.
How do you mean democratic?
Well, in the same 48 hours, King might sit down with a sitting world leader, a celebrity chef, a really divisive politician, and maybe an alleged psychic or UFO expert. And crucially, he treated them all with basically the same direct, often startlingly simple curiosity.
So our mission today is to unpack not just the immense scale of this work, but also the equally complex and, let's be honest, dramatic life behind the microphone.
Definitely dramatic.
We're tracing the complete arc.
Yeah.
Starting with his desperately humble Depression-era roots in Brooklyn, analyzing that dramatic moment he became Larry King, examining the singular, often criticized, interview style he cultivated, and, navigating the famously chaotic health crises, the business controversies, and those 8 marriages that shaped the man.
A lot to cover. And just to set the historical stage immediately, let's remember the beginning and the end. He was born Lawrence Harvey Zeiger.
Zeiger, right.
That name was abandoned almost instantly for broadcast purposes, as we'll get into.
Okay.
And when he passed away in January 2021 at the age of 87, the narrative was, well, it was complicated. While he had been hospitalized with a severe COVID-19 infection, sources confirm his actual cause of death 3 weeks later was sepsis.
Sepsis, right. A complication.
Yeah, a life-threatening complication that followed that long hospitalization. #tag 2 Brooklyn Roots and the Miami Transformation.
Okay, let's unpack this journey then, because that Brooklyn beginning, it feels like the key to understanding why he pursued his career with such, ferocious intensity.
Absolutely. He was born Lawrence Harvey Zeiger on November 19th, 1933 in New York City. His home life was rooted in the immigrant experience. His parents were Orthodox Jews who had immigrated from Soviet Belarus in the 1920s, specifically from Minsk and Pinsk. Yeah. But that immigrant foundation was hit by this hammer blow of tragedy. They lived in a row house, but when King was just 9 years old, his father, Aaron, died suddenly of a heart attack.
Wow, 9 years old.
Yeah. And this was the defining traumatic event of his youth. The family King, his mother Jenny, and his brother were suddenly reliant on government welfare.
That must have been incredibly difficult.
Oh, the fallout was immediate and lasting. King later admitted that he completely lost interest in his schoolwork while attending Lafayette High School.
Just lost interest.
Completely. The structure and focus of academia just evaporated for him. His drive shifted entirely from formal learning to sheer survival and, crucially, to that deeply ingrained, singular dream he held, becoming a successful radio broadcaster.
All right, the radio dream. So after graduating, he worked odd jobs to help support his mother, but that dream didn't die.
Not at all. He was desperate. He sought advice from a CBS production supervisor, James F. Sermons, who gave him this life-altering advice. Don't stay in New York, go to Florida.
Florida? Why Florida?
He said Miami was a rapidly expanding media market, and they were desperate for inexperienced broadcasters. Basically, a place where a newcomer could get a foot in the door.
So it was a huge gamble then, moving south with nothing.
A massive roll of the dice. and he faced initial setbacks, really struggling to break into the industry. He finally landed his first radio job in Miami Beach in 1957 at this small station, WAHR, which is now WMBM.
But not on the air immediately.
No, not at all. He was hired initially to clean floors, run errands, perform miscellaneous tasks, earning a meager $50 a week.
$50.
Yeah, a pittance even then. It really highlights his initial desperation, you know.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
how did he get on air?
Well, here's where the persona was instantly born. An announcer abruptly quit, and King, who had apparently been practicing, was just shoved onto the air on May 1st, 1957.
Just like that.
Pretty much. He started as a disc jockey, quickly adding newscasts and a sportscast, but the station's general manager, a man named Marshall Simmons, stopped him moments before he went live.
Why? What happened?
Simmons looked at the name Lawrence Zeiger and basically declared it was too German, too Jewish, and not show business enough.
Wow. That's blunt.
Right. It was a moment of absolute panic and necessity. Lawrence Zeiger needed an alias, and he needed it seconds before the microphone opened.
Geez, like seconds.
That's the story. He glanced down, saw an advertisement in the Miami Herald for King's wholesale liquor, and just chose King.
No way. From a liquor ad.
That spur-of-the-moment decision in a hallway defined the next 6 decades of his professional identity. It wasn't some calculated PR move. It was pure, desperate improvisation.
Incredible.
And he legally changed the name to Larry King within 2 years.
So, Larry King is born. How did he break through locally? Was it just as spontaneous?
Pretty much, yeah. It showcases his innate ability to connect with people. He began conducting interviews for WIOD from this now famous deli called Pumpernicks restaurant in Miami Beach.
Pumpernicks, right.
And he literally interviewed whoever walked in the door.
Just whoever.
That's the key difference right there. He didn't start in some sterile studio. His environment was a busy, loud Jewish deli. His very first interview, a waiter at the restaurant.
A waiter. It really reinforces that democratic approach you mentioned.
Exactly. He's interviewing a waiter, but he's treating it like the most important interview of his career.
And did that casual setting work?
It became his superpower. It removed the barrier between the broadcaster and the subject, and the concept paid off almost immediately. 2 days after interviewing the waiter, the singer, Bobby Darin.
Bobby Darin.
Yeah, who was in Miami for a concert, heard the show, walked right into Pumpernicks, and became King's first major celebrity interview guest.
Amazing. Just walked it off the street.
King had successfully created this space where the everyday person and the global star could inhabit the same informal setting. He soon parlayed this into local TV exposure, hosting Miami Undercover starting in 1960.
And his local success was really cemented by a figure of immense national power at the time, Jackie Gleason.
Ah, yes. Gleason's national variety show moved its taping to Miami Beach in 1964, and King credits him heavily as a crucial mentor.
How so?
He recounted how Gleason stayed up all night with him, advising him, and even helped rearrange the set and lighting of King's local program. That connection, that mentorship from a national icon, gave him vital legitimacy.
Okay, so his career was rocketing forward. He even became a color commentator for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, during the 1970 and most of the 1971 seasons, but his early career wasn't just success, it was volatile. In December 1971, King faced this devastating professional and legal crisis. He was fired by both WIOD and WTVJ.
Fired? What happened? This is the scandal, right?
This was the big one. A serious, reputation-shattering scandal. He was arrested for grand larceny following a complaint from a former business partner, Louis Wolfson, concerning a $5,000 bad check.
Grand larceny. That's serious.
Oh, yeah. He lost his late-night radio slot, his TV commentary job, and his newspaper column basically overnight. The charges were later dropped, but the damage was done.
So how did he come back from that?
Well, the key takeaway here is resilience. The charges were eventually dismissed, but he lost years of traction. It took time, but he was eventually rehired by WIOD, starting first with a sports talk show called Sports a la King.
Okay.
But this brush with the law and professional disgrace, it really underscores the vulnerability beneath that burgeoning celebrity veneer. And maybe it fueled his determination to reach a level of national prominence where local scandals couldn't touch him again. #tag3, the king of all-night radio.
Right. That need for national legitimacy seems to define his next big move.
Exactly. In 1978, Larry King truly went national. He began a nightly coast-to-coast radio program on the Mutual Broadcasting System. The Larry King Show started January 30, 1978, And it was the bridge that took him from regional celebrity to genuine national figure.
And we have to talk about the time slot, because it just sounds physically grueling. This show was broadcast live Monday through Friday from midnight to 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah, midnight to 5:30 a.m.
5.5 hours, 5 nights a week, in the dead of night.
Yeah.
I mean, how does someone sustain that level of output?
It speaks volumes about his drive, doesn't it? And frankly, the incredible energy he maintained, especially considering he was a 3-pack-a-day smoker back then.
3 packs a day, and doing that shift.
Wild. The structure of the show was specifically designed for this demanding schedule and that unique late-night audience. It had 3 distinct parts.
Okay, break that format down for us.
So first hour was dedicated to a detailed interview with a high-profile guest. Standard enough. But the secret weapon came next. For the following 2 hours, the guest stayed on.
The guest stayed for 3 hours.
Often, yes. And the microphone was open to callers from all across the country. These callers continued the interview, asking questions of the guest directly.
Wow. That's real access.
It was a massive democratization of access, long before the internet or social media made that kind of direct communication common.
And that must have created an audience that was intensely loyal, right? Because they felt like active participants. They were the original Kingaholics, weren't they?
Absolutely. People who were up with him every night, tuning in for that blend of high-profile guest and direct interaction.
So what was the third segment?
The third segment was where the intimacy deepened even further. Starting at 3 a.m. Eastern, the segment was called Open Phone America.
Open Phone America. Okay.
At this point, the guest was typically long gone, and King allowed callers to discuss any topic they pleased with him until the end of the program.
Anything at all.
Anything. And this is also when King felt free to share his own opinions, often political ones, with his dedicated audience.
That segment must have been crucial for stations out west, with the time difference.
Absolutely. Because of the time difference, many stations in the Pacific and Mountain time zones would carry the main guest interview on tape delay earlier in the evening.
Right.
But they often carried the Open Phone America segment live, starting much earlier in their local evening schedule. It meant King's personal, unfiltered thoughts were reaching listeners across the entire continent, creating this shared, almost cult-like experience.
And the community he built was so vivid that we know the callers by name, or, well, by nickname, right? He gave them pseudonyms.
That's right. It made them characters in his national drama. The sources are full of these recurring, almost folkloric figures who became part of the nightly show's landscape. The numbers guy, the chair, the Portland Laugher.
The Portland Laugher, what did they do?
Apparently, just laughed into the phone, never spoke a word.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. And the Miami Derelict, the Scandal Scoopers, they weren't just random people. They were like the co-stars of late-night America. It really proved King's knack for turning the mundane into compelling narrative.
That personal touch obviously translated into immense growth. He started that national show with only, 28 affiliates?
Just 28, but when he finally retired from the program in 1994, after 16 years on Mutual, the show had swelled to over 500 affiliates.
500. That's huge reach for radio back then.
Incredible reach. And the sheer longevity in the audio space is amazing. Even after his final radio broadcast on May 27, 1994, he remained connected to that audio world.
How so?
For many years, the audio of his new high-profile CNN television program was actually simulcast on radio networks until 2009.
So even with the TV show booming, he kept a foot in radio.
Long after cable news had supposedly killed radio's influence, he simply refused to let go of the medium that made him.
Which brings us, to the absolute zenith of his career, where he became this global cultural staple, instantly recognizable by his demeanor and, of course, those suspenders. Larry King Live began on CNN in June 1985 and ran for 25 years.
An unparalleled quarter-century run. The scale is, again, almost comical. 6,000 episodes taped.
6,000.
It was recognized by Guinness World Records as the longest-running television show hosted by the same person on the same network and in the same time slot.
Oh.
That consistency is just the defining feature of his career.
And as you mentioned earlier, the breadth of guests was dizzying. From the most serious political figures on the planet to figures who were, fringe, controversial, or just plain fun.
Right.
He secured the first or exclusive interviews on countless breaking stories. Seems he truly saw his role as simply allowing the guest, whoever they were, to tell their story without filtering.
That's exactly the heart of his controversial but immensely successful interview philosophy. His style was direct, he didn't waste time on pleasantries, but crucially, it was non-confrontational.
Okay, non-confrontational. That wasn't accidental, you're saying. It was a strategy.
Oh, highly calculated, yes.
Calculated how? Because to an outsider, it often looked like, well, journalistic softness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially compared to the rising tide of aggressive cable news hosts in the 90s and 2000s.
Sure, but it was attractive to the powerful. Important figures, world leaders, major CEOs, the biggest celebrities, they knew that coming on to Larry King Live meant they could state their position without heavy challenge, without being aggressively cross-examined on specific details, without facing gotcha questions. King basically offered a safe harbor in a media environment that was becoming increasingly hostile.
A safe harbor. Okay. And this brings us to the absolutely legendary and often criticized technique he employed to maintain that non-confrontational stance. Tell us about his reading habits, or lack thereof.
Right. It's sort of the antithesis of preparation, isn't it? King famously and openly stated that when interviewing authors, he purposely did not read their books in advance.
Didn't read the book.
Nope. He didn't read biographies. He didn't memorize statistics. He tried to keep his preparation minimal for pretty much every guest.
Now, was this truly for the audience, as he claimed, so he wouldn't know more than them, or was it maybe a strategy to minimize his own workload while maximizing access?
That is the central tension of his career, and it's likely both, right?
Yeah, probably.
He argued that by remaining slightly ignorant, he ensured his questions were the same fundamental questions the average viewer at home was thinking. What's this book about? Why'd you do that?
Simple questions.
Exactly. It made him relatable, accessible, and ensured the conversation stayed focused on broad strokes rather than deep, substantive pushback. If he didn't know the obscure details of the author's previous work, well, he couldn't use those details to challenge them.
So he was more of a facilitator than a dissecting journalist.
Precisely. That was the role he carved out.
Regardless of the motivation, the impact he had on politics was just undeniable. The sources highlight two really monumental political moments on his show. First, in 1992, Ross Perot.
Oh, yeah. The Texas billionaire.
He used Larry King Live as his launching pad to announce his presidential candidacy.
That single interview fundamentally altered the 1992 election. At the time, Perot was just this wealthy businessman with an idea. King's massive platform gave immediate national legitimacy to that third-party bid.
Incredible power.
Yeah.
And the second moment
came in 1993, when the debate he moderated between Vice President Al Gore and Perot became CNN's most watched segment in its history up until 2015.
Wow. Most watched until 2015.
Yeah. He didn't just cover politics, he actively drove it sometimes.
And while he was achieving this peak on CNN, he was still maintaining his sort of writerly identity. He wrote a column for the Sporting News.
Yeah, during the 1980s, which makes perfect sense given his background as a sports commentator, right?
Yeah.
But the most ubiquitous writing was his regular column in USA Today. That ran for almost 20 years, from 1982 until 2001.
20 years. And that column, it accompanied his nightly television presence. It sounds like it perfectly reflected that breezy, access-driven nature of his celebrity.
It did. The column was described as being filled with short plugs, superlatives, and dropped names.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, it was light, easy reading, essentially a daily dose of Larry King's proximity to power and celebrity.
So when he finally stepped down on December 16th, 2010, there was speculation. Piers Morgan was confirmed as his replacement. Was that seen as CNN shifting strategy away from his style?
Absolutely. It was widely interpreted as CNN moving away from King's non-confrontational style toward a more aggressive, opinionated format. King's simplicity was being replaced by, well, punchiness. His final graceful words on the show, I don't know what to say except to you, my audience, thank you. And instead of goodbye, how about so long, were the perfect, unassuming exit for the man who loved a simple question.
So long. Very fitting. #ShagV, post-CNN ventures and legacy building. But as we've established, Larry King did not know the meaning of the word retirement. Not at all. He pivoted immediately into the new media landscape.
Right away. In 2012, he co-founded Aura TV, a production company, alongside his then-wife, Sean Southwick King, and the influential Mexican business magnate Carlos Slim.
Carlos Slim. Wow. Big backer.
Huge. He was determined to adapt. This venture immediately launched the web series Larry King Now, which was carried on Hulu starting in July 2012. He was truly embracing the digital distribution model.
Still innovating.
And he even hosted the third-party presidential debate on the Aura TV platform that year, showing he could still attract high-stakes political content outside of the established networks.
Now, this leads us to the most complex and ethically scrutinized segment of his late career, right? The RT America deal.
Yeah, this was definitely controversial. In May 2013, Aura TV struck a deal with the Russian government-owned RT America network to license his two shows, Larry King Now, and a weekly political talk show, Politicking with Larry King.
And this arrangement ran for 7 years, until 2020.
Correct.
The controversy here stemmed directly from the source of the funding, didn't it? RT being widely viewed as a propaganda outlet for the Russian government.
Exactly. Critics argued that by licensing content to them, King was lending his immense credibility to a network specifically designed to spread foreign influence and disinformation. It looked bad.
So how did King defend this decision? He must have known the scrutiny it would bring.
His defense was twofold and very specific. He adamantly maintained, "I don't work for RT."
Okay.
He clarified that Aura TV simply licensed the shows to the network for a fee, much like any independent production company licenses content. He stressed that he retained complete editorial control, stating he would never put up with them trying to edit out content.
So he saw it as just a business transaction, using their pipes, basically.
That was his framing, using the infrastructure of the network for distribution while maintaining independence. But, that distinction remained deeply problematic for many critics.
Understandably. But even outside of that structure, he remained active, right? He hosted another show.
Yeah, he hosted the educational TV series In View with Larry King from 2013 to 2015, carried on various networks like Fox Business Network and Discovery.
And his digital presence.
Yeah.
You mentioned Twitter. That connected back to his radio days.
Absolutely. He was incredibly active on Twitter, using it almost like his own personal Open Phone America segment. He told sources, "I love tweeting. I'm giving out thoughts, opinions. The whole concept has changed."
So he was still doing that direct, unfiltered connection thing.
Exactly. He used the platform to maintain that intimacy with the public he had mastered decades prior.
We should also touch on his immense cultural ubiquity in film. He almost always played himself, didn't he? Reinforcing that status as the interviewer laureate.
Totally. The sources list Ghostbusters, Contact, The Dictator. But for pure pop culture delight, you can't forget his surprisingly charming voice roles.
Oh, right. Doris the Ugly Stepsister in Shrek 2.
And sequels. An incredibly unexpected casting choice. And perhaps the most fitting, he voiced B. Larry King in Jerry Seinfeld's B-Movie.
B. Larry King. Perfect.
He was such a recognizable fixture that he could literally become a character named after himself in a major animated film. It's amazing.
But the downside of being so sort of digitally adaptable became apparent late in his life. The sources mention a really unfortunate incident in 2019 involving disinformation.
Yeah, reported by ProPublica. It highlights the dangers of the modern media landscape. He was manipulated unwittingly, sources suggest, into starring in a fake interview.
A fake interview?
Yeah, containing disinformation about a Chinese dissident, Guo Wengui. This fake content was then actively spread by Chinese government-associated social media accounts.
Wow. That's scary.
It really showed how easily even a trusted, seasoned professional could be caught and used as a vector for state-sponsored disinformation. A real demonstration of the new risks in the digital age.
Despite controversies like that, his charitable legacy seems pretty substantial. The Larry King Cardiac Foundation.
Right. Following his major heart attack in 1987, he founded that foundation. It's a nonprofit organization dedicated to paying for life-saving cardiac procedures for people who couldn't afford them.
So he turned his own health crisis into something positive for others.
Exactly. He transformed a personal health crisis into a mission to fund, sources say, over 200 life-saving operations for those in need. That's significant.
Let's dig into those private battles more. That 1987 heart attack, you said, was a complete reordering of his life.
Oh, absolutely. He required emergency quintuple bypass surgery. It was a massive, life-threatening intervention directly linked to his lifestyle.
And that surgery forced a dramatic, immediate change, didn't it? His smoking habit.
Yes. He was reportedly a chain smoker who consumed 3 packs of cigarettes a day. 3 packs.
Unbelievable.
The severity of the heart attack forced him to quit instantly. Cold turkey.
Wow.
And he not only survived, but he chronicled the experience, co-writing 2 books about living with heart disease. He turned his vulnerability into a public health message.
But the health battles didn't stop there, did they? They persisted relentlessly.
No, they didn't. He endured more than one major crisis later on. Doctors discovered and successfully removed a malignant tumor in his lung during a 2017 examination.
Lung cancer.
successfully removed, thankfully. But then came another devastating blow in March 2019.
The stroke.
That was the stroke. Highly debilitating. It left him in a coma for what he described as weeks. The physical recovery was arduous, affecting his core ability to communicate.
And the psychological impact.
Yeah,
The sources reveal it was profound. He actually contemplated suicide.
he did. King later admitted the experience was so devastating that he contemplated suicide in the aftermath. He told a Los Angeles television station, quote, "I didn't want to live this way."
Oh, that's heartbreaking for a man whose entire identity was built on effortless, witty, rapid-fire communication.
Exactly. The impact of the stroke was this devastating loss of self. It adds incredible dimension to the public persona, doesn't it?
It really does.
Here was this man who seemed outwardly impervious, constantly interviewing, constantly working, yet grappling with private despair and physical challenges that fundamentally threatened his livelihood and identity.
And his life outside of work was rarely calm either. We need to address the sheer chaos and volume of his personal relationships. 8 marriages to 7 different women.
It's an unprecedented level of marital flux, starting almost comically early with an annulled marriage to his high school sweetheart, Freda Miller, when he was just 19 in 1952.
19.
Yeah. The relationships were often dramatic and overlapping.
And one of the more surprising family facts is about his eldest son, right?
Yes, he had a son, Larry Jr., whom he did not meet until Larry Jr. was already in his 30s.
Didn't meet him until he was 30.
Correct. Larry Jr. was the result of King's brief second marriage to Annette Kay. This later reunion really speaks to the often fragmented nature of King's family life amidst his intense career climb.
And he showed this remarkable tendency to repeat previous relationships. He married Aline Akins twice.
Yes. First briefly from 1961 to 1963, and then again from 1969 to 1972.
Why? Do we know?
The dynamics must have been complex. During that first short marriage, he adopted her son, Andy. And then during the second marriage, they had a daughter together, Chaya.
Okay. But his longest and final marriage was to Sean Southwick, starting in 1997.
Right. And the proposal and wedding to Sean were classic Larry King high drama, tied intimately to his health crises again.
How so?
They married in his hospital room just 3 days before he underwent heart surgery in 1997.
In the hospital room.
Yes. They went on to have 2 sons, Chance and Cannon. That marriage lasted until their separation in 2019, which is actually a considerable run given his track record.
True. But the private tragedy hit hardest just months before his own death, didn't it? With his children from Aline Akins?
Oh, absolutely devastating. His children with Aline Akins, Andy, and Chaya died within weeks of each other in August 2020.
Within weeks. Oh, my God.
Andy died at 65 from a heart attack, and Chaya died just weeks later at 51 from lung cancer.
That's unimaginable.
To lose 2 children in such rapid succession, particularly after such a tumultuous relationship with their mother, it must have been an unbearable blow in the final months of his life. King spoke publicly about the profound pain of enduring that loss.
It's just awful. Outside of family drama, his personal views and finances were also pretty colorful. Raised Orthodox Jewish, but his religious views evolved significantly.
Yeah, quite a journey there. By 2005, he described himself as a Jewish agnostic, proud of his heritage but questioning dogma.
Okay.
By 2015, he went further, stating he was fully atheist.
Atheist. Interesting. And financially, he wasn't always savvy. The Madoff connection.
Right. He suffered substantial financial setbacks, including losing a reported $2.8 million to Bernie Madoff's colossal Ponzi scheme.
Ouch.
A huge loss that speaks to his trust and perhaps, some poor investment judgment despite his immense wealth over the years.
And for a man who seems so grounded in the simple mechanics of broadcasting, he flirted with cryonics, being frozen.
Yes. It's a fascinating detail. The sources indicate he considered being cryonically suspended multiple times, specifically mentioning the idea in 2009, 2011, and 2015.
Seriously considered it.
Apparently so. After serious contemplation and discussions with his family, he ultimately decided against the procedure 2 years before his death. It's just fascinating that the man who wanted simple, direct answers was tempted by such an elaborate sci-fi solution to mortality.
It really is. And finally, his death sparked a contentious legal fight over his estate.
It did. His estate was valued at $2 million, though that figure apparently excluded assets held in trusts, which could be substantial.
Okay, so $2 million was the publicly stated value.
Right. And that lower value became the focus of a very public legal battle. His estranged wife, Shawn Southwick, contested his 2019 handwritten will.
Handwritten will.
Yes, the will explicitly left the entire $2 estate to his 5 surviving children, seemingly cutting Shawn out completely. She alleged that the will was signed under undue influence from his son, Larry King Jr.
Wow. So more drama right to the end.
Exactly. This legal battle over his final wishes was only resolved through a settlement in 2024 with King's business management firm long after his passing. It created this final, dramatic, public episode in his life. #tag7, conclusion and final thought.
So what does this entire sprawling, chaotic, and monumental career ultimately mean? When we synthesize the legacy, the recognition is just everywhere, isn't it?
Absolutely. Across every corner of the industry, he
Yeah.
won 2 Peabodys for excellence, one for his radio show, one for his CNN coverage, an Emmy, 10 Cable AC awards.
10 cable AC.
Yeah, it was inducted into both the Radio Hall of Fame and the Broadcasters Hall of Fame. He wasn't just an interviewer, he really defined the role for a generation.
So the essential takeaway for you, the listener, what is it?
I think it's King's unique ability to transcend media formats while remaining utterly consistent in his delivery, his style. He navigated the transition from local Miami radio to those grueling national midnight airwaves, to the primetime cable news slot, and finally into the complexities of digital media and even infomercials.
Right.
Always maintaining that distinctive, simple, non-confrontational style.
And he also understood the essential currency of vulnerability, didn't he? His willingness to expose his health battles, his constant family drama,
Yes.
and even just his simple, honest questions. It made him profoundly relatable and human, even as his access made him iconic.
Precisely. And that brings us back to his foundational interview technique. The simple, non-confrontational question, often delivered without deep research. We've seen how this allowed him to interview, 50,000 people.
So the final question, the provocative thought for you listening, was it the mark of genuine humility and pure curiosity? A way to truly represent the average audience member's perspective and ensure accessibility for all? A man simply looking for an answer, unburdened by academic pretense?
Or was it, conversely, a highly calculated method, a strategy used to draw out the powerful figures of the world by guaranteeing them a less challenging platform than they might face with a hard-hitting journalist, a way to ensure continued access by providing accommodation?
That really is the ultimate tension in the Larry King legacy, isn't it? Whether his signature method was driven by journalistic humility or by strategic accommodation.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating question for you to consider as you reflect on the man who, from the moment he found the name King in a Miami hallway, built a life around making the complex world accessible, one simple question at a time.